Greece has voted on a second bill, and it's a final step towards implementing the next wave of austerity measures, and still protests are going on in Athens. Well, let's cross live to the heart of Athens. Joining us now is financial journalist Dimitri Kofinas. Thank you very much for being there with us. Now, how are the people of Athens reacting to Thursday's vote?
Well, they already started to gather around the parliament right now. They're quickly starting to amass a number on the street in front of Constitution Square, and on the streets perpendicular. People are starting to gather here. Before about an hour, there weren't really that many people. They were supposed to gather by 6, but as the sun begins to set and the heat dissipates, it becomes a lot easier for people to gather here, and that's what we've seen in the past, and that's what we're seeing again tonight.
Okay, well, there are reports that the government is being accused of using illegal chemical agents to disperse protesters. Well, from what you've seen there, how real are those claims?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you if the chemicals are not tear gas or something else, but I can tell you that the amount of chemicals in the air is substantial, because even if you go down to the Constitution Square right now and you go near any of the shops that were hit with tear gas, you'll find that, especially when the wind picks up, your eyes will tear and it's very difficult to breathe. And as far as the claims, whether they're legitimate or not, you're talking about people like the head of the National Pharmaceutic Association here in Greece and other people who are claiming that some of these substances are illegal and that they're carcinogenic. So these are experts that should know who are making these claims.
Okay, well, you've been there for a couple of days now, and you're right there in the action talking to people, I suppose. What ideas have been put forward there in terms of solutions to possibly getting out of this crisis, right there from the Greek people themselves?
I mean, the most common solution is a default, and there aren't that many people around here who have a clear sense of how that would go about. There are some economists in Greece and other people who are proposing solutions, but those solutions that are really being proposed, for the most part, are solutions that require a cooperative party, like the EU and the IMF, to cooperate to restructure the debt. Right now, the principal problem for those people trying to advocate for a solution like that, is that they don't have a willing party. They don't have an IMF or an EU that wants to restructure this debt. So right now, the only viable option available to Greeks that people are discussing realistically is a default. A default, possibly return to the drachma, possibly, ideally, a bi-currency system, a dual currency system where you have the drachma for public expenditures, keeping borrowing costs down and interest rates high for the government, and keeping inflation kind of barred to the public sector, and a euro for domestic purposes and private use. Hopefully no capital controls. That's a big fear for a lot of people in the private sector here who want to invest and want to build this country up. Capital controls is a real concern if we do default.
Okay, well, those are a lot of ideas, and as you had said earlier, it does require the cooperation of a lot of big institutions. But now Greece is finding itself in a crisis. But how much time do you think Greece has before another round of crisis bigger than what is currently happening hits it?
It doesn't have. I mean, this is the thing is that they release these tranches bit by bit. So remember, it was a year ago where we passed that 110 billion euro bailout that exacted the wrath of the Northern Europeans in this country. But the amount of money from that bailout does not come all at once. It's tranche by tranche, and this, I think, was the fifth or fourth. I think it was the fifth installment, and it was something like 12 billion euros. So it was pocket change in terms of what the Greek government would need overall. And because this is how they're implementing the measures bit by bit, and because the debt burden is so large and it continues to grow, remember, it grows ever larger, and we're in a deflationary period right now here in Greece, so the debt just keeps mounting on the backs of the Greek people. You can expect to see this crisis drag on and roll and build like a giant snowball down a hill, because that's the nature of a large debt load. It just keeps growing and growing, and it's just going to put more and more pressure on this economy, more and more pressure on these people, and that's going to result in more violence, more protests, and a fall of this government eventually.